Keep going!
Hurry up, hurry up! Kom, vad ger i dörren? Kom, dörren! Vad är dörren?
Whoa, look, this car's coming the wrong way down the road. Get off the road! Come on, son, put your back into it. You're saying the Burmese troops are hiding just round the corner?
They just saw now.
It's extraordinary. It's the 21st century and you're going after pirates in the Indian Ocean.
So we're now at the front of the whole raiding party. So we're speeding through the traffic now. I mean, we're in proper pursuit sort of situation. They're telling us to get down. This is what they think is a cartel safe house.
I'm gonna throw it in now. We're gonna show you now to use this shit.
Yeah, the boat is...
Is that a real gun?
Yeah. You come in here, you wanna have some. This is the gun, the gun
okay.
Do you have any cricket money?
Suddenly, the mood changed. The men started jostling us and demanding money. It was time to make a quick exit.
Okay, we need to go right now. Okay, I think we're gonna get in the car.
Fighting has been to every corner of this city.
What was that? How does he know it's Al Shabaab?
That side, that's the Shabab now.
Just up ahead, there's a sort of graveyard really for cars that have been blown up by mines as they pass through this area. Blinking in! Come on, hey! I caught a tuna in the Indian Ocean. What happens now?
We go home and we have a beer.
Pulling. Oh, drink it all, yes! What is it about blokes and alcohol? Yeah! Cheers there, Captain.
Pues lo invito, ¿no? A que pase y conozca un poquito y sienta.
What is this?
Cheese.
The guest of honor is given the head of the fish.
I've got to suck out the eye.
Yeah.
If I find out later you're winding me up, I'm coming back for you. It's all right, actually.
What I can't find is my little one. What you doing in there, you silly thing? Huh? You're one of my favourites.
Madame.
He doesn't know what it is.
Has he seen white people, foreigners in the village before? Have a look at this. Paradise. We've landed in paradise. This is like something from a dream, almost. A lake in the desert.
You're going to try and imagine paradise. There you go. That's it.
Salama! It's a huge trip. It's an enormous challenge, and it begins right here, right now.
Incredible, absolutely fantastic. How good was that? Wow, I am privileged. I am honored to welcome here with us for this live exclusive masterclass session from the Changing Education Group, Simon Reeve, adventurer, explorer, someone who's done it all. Simon, I believe it's even playing in the background still. We've got another video there. Apologies for
You
that.
just can't shut me up, Amos.
I know. We can't stop you. There's no end to what you've achieved. You've done some incredible things. Bringing crocodiles. Who brings a crocodile into a boat?
Wasn't my idea, mate. I promise you that.
Fishing with the president of Moldova, surviving malaria. How did you get through that? Being abducted by the KGB. Incredible stuff. There's so many things that you've done and you've been through, but to say that this was something that you'd planned, we would be mistaken, because your earlier years was completely different. Things looked as though they were going in the opposite direction, but had it not been for work experience and also for the opportunities that came, I've heard you say on a number of occasions, fortune has followed you, luck has been on your side. With a bit of that, we wouldn't be here perhaps talking today.
I think that's very true. Yeah, I certainly never imagined I would be where I am now, doing what I do. I had a very, well, to call it unpromising would be an understatement. I was completely hopeless at school. I was hopeless as a teenager. I really, really struggled. I found everything an enormous challenge. And long story short, I basically flunked out of school without any real qualifications and went on the dole. So things did not start well for me at all. And yeah, I think luck has played a massive part for me. I've certainly worked very hard. When I sensed opportunity had come my way, that was really critical. Seizing the moment, really, spotting when that crack in the door opens just enough to get a foot in, and then a knee, and then the rest of me. That was pretty important.
I love that. That is incredible. There's a saying that says, complacency leans on the doorbell, but opportunity knocks only but once. And when that opportunity came, you took full advantage of that, which is great. Now, Simon, before we start, I do notice your colour theme behind you is very similar to what we've got going here. A little revelation for you. I actually got some of, the colour theme of the Changing Education colours, but I was watching an interview with you and I saw what you had going and I thought, that actually looks quite good. I wonder if we could do something similar to how we do our presentation. So we nicked this from you.
Amos, are you saying I can take the credit?
So, I hope you don't mind. We yeah, so you take the credit for that. We did take that from you, but yeah, it's an absolute joy to have you here today. Now I've got quite a few questions to get through. Some of the questions have come through our schools, so I want to go through a couple of questions, and then of course, time permitting, I want to go through some other questions as well, which I would personally like to ask you. Is that okay?
Whatever you want.
Roger that. Okay. We've got, so Simon, again, a warm welcome to you and a warm welcome to all of our schools. Thank you so much to all of you for tuning in for this live masterclass session. As I was saying earlier on, we've got Simon Reeve with us, who is a New York Times best-selling author, TV presenter, who's traveled to more than 130 countries, if I can get my words out, and a multiple award-winning TV series for the BBC. After nearly 2 decades spent making more than 100 programmes, Simon has become a familiar face on British TV, well known for his spectacular journeys. Most of Simon's documentaries combine travel and adventure with global environmental, wildlife and conservation issues, and have taken him across jungles, deserts, mountains and oceans, and to some the most beautiful and dangerous and remote regions, as we saw in the video earlier on. Simon has dodged bullets on the front lines, hunted with bushmen of the Kalahari. He's dived the manta rays, seals, sharks, survived malaria, walked through minefields, tracked lions on foot. Incredible. Being taught to fish by the president of Moldova, adopted by former headhunters, and detained for spying by the KGB. Yeah, that's a jam-packed a life and career there.
That was just last week.
I love it. And then, of course, you know, Simon, you know, your book, you wrote a 1998 investigative book, The New Jackals. You know, you were ahead of the pulse. You kind of knew something about this group, Al Qaeda. You kind of knew that there was something brewing up, and you know, you were ahead of the game. You became the go-to person in terms of Al Qaeda after 9/11.
Yeah, I became, I suppose, one of these TV pundits you sometimes see brought onto the news channels to sit there in the studio and talk about what on earth is going on in the world and why something terrible has happened. So I did that. I'd written a book, as you say, about Al Qaeda that came out in 1998, which I'd spent 5 long years researching and writing, and I'd become a little bit obsessed about. And of course, when that book came out, nobody took any notice. Nobody read it. My parents went around bookshops, moving it from the dusty shelves at the back of the shops to the front, sort of blowing the dust off the copies. Don't write a book. It's a nightmare, honestly. But yeah, nobody read it initially. And then the terrible events of 2001 happened, 9/11. And I'd written the only book in the world really on the group responsible. So I suddenly became this sort of go-to media pundit expert. And that led to talking with TV channels about actually making TV programs, not just appearing on news programs.
Yeah, it's incredible how some of these things happen. And again, you talked about taking the opportunity. Would you say the opportunities came as a result of that?
Yeah, I think luck has played a massive part in my life, and honestly, I think a lot of people who are, a lot of us just generally, we don't acknowledge the role luck plays, and by not doing that, we don't recognise the bad luck that means some people don't get to those positions, and it is so often, you know, you take a left or a right at a fork in the road, and there's no way of knowing which way is going to lead to success, if you like, or failure, as some people call it. But yeah, hard work was a massive aspect for me as well. I have buckled down as an adult, even if I found my start in life very tricky. And saying yes, you know, saying yes when people have come to me with opportunities or ideas, and really going for it when I've got something that I'm keen on. And I think a big thing for me has been going a bit further than other people are often willing to go. So doing a bit more, pushing a bit harder, trying for a bit longer than other people. Because not to say we're all in a race with each other, but certainly, you know, you've got to put yourself out there and invest in what you believe to try and make it a success. But at the same time, you've also got to know when to say, all right, this ain't working. You know, I've got to call time on this because I'm just banging my head against the brick wall. There's certainly been lots of occasions over my little humble career when I've realized this is not going to take off. I'm not going to be able to get this book or this TV series or this project off the ground. And I need to focus on something else that I like doing and enjoy doing.
Yeah, I'm really glad you've answered that, because that answers one of our questions, which came from Stanley from Wellacre Academy. Stanley, that was a great question, by the way. So I just kind of reworded it a little bit, but good question to ask.
Thank you, Stanley.
Because, you know, yes, luck definitely played a part. but then hard work was definitely a factor. And let's say, opportunity, is there for that person. Luck follows the person who works hard, paraphrasing, but the idea is if you work hard, there's going to be more lucky opportunities that will come towards you. So it wasn't just something that just happened. I believe anyway, that, you definitely put yourself out there and you said yes. You said yes to those opportunities. You went beyond the call of duty. You did what you could to get, to be given that opportunity. So yeah, that's my contribution to that. So let's move on to the questions from some of our schools. So we've got a question here from Bedford Academy. They want to know, can you tell us about your role as a BBC presenter and the travel documentaries? I think we could be here all day with this one, but it generally just, tell us how the BBC thing came about, and then the travel documentaries as well.
Well, goodness. So I'd written the book on terrorism. I'd written a few books on terrorism. I should say hello, by the way, to folk who are watching. I'm very honoured to be with you, and I'm very honoured you're tuning in. And hello to Bedford Academy, and thank you for the question. So I'd written the book in answer to the brilliant question, and I started getting people approaching me, asking whether I wanted to make and present TV programmes, not just appear on news channels in a suit and in my only suit and tie. And initially, I suppose I was a little bit reluctant because I thought, I'm an author. I've written books. I'm gonna be looking like a fool. They're gonna make me look like a fool on the telly. But luckily, I said yes, and I started having these conversations about what we could do, where I could go, what sort of programs I might present. And the BBC at the time were very keen on making programs that blended travel and current affairs. So sort of travel, adventure and issues, which was a slightly new type of TV program. And I was very interested in Central Asia. So that's the area to the north of Afghanistan. The so-called Stan countries of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. I knew very little about them, but I was interested in that. I wondered what on earth was going on there. It's a huge area of the world. And so we started talking about making a low budget or lowish budget adventure series where I would go on a journey around Central Asia, and I would definitely have proper experiences. Things would go wrong. I would eat some funny food, but I would also learn a bit more about life there. And I thought that sounded fascinating, quite frankly. And thank goodness I said yes. I didn't let my worries stop me. I didn't let my concerns. I just went for it. And it was a brilliant adventure from the absolute beginning. And it's just really evolved from there. Every time I make a TV series, it's a new project. I don't have a long-term contract, if you like, with anybody, actually. I'm a freelance worker for all intents, and I have been for many, many years now. And that can be a little bit nerve-wracking because I don't know where my next work or job is going to come from. But I've learned to live with that. I enjoy the freedom that comes with being freelance. I've never been particularly obsessed with money, so I'm not too worried about earning mega bucks, but I do like having a bit of freedom and being able to pick and choose what I want to do and kind of do what I love, really. So that's where the original projects came from, and it sort of really just snowballed from there. But I'm judged by the success of each TV series I do. So if I have a TV series that absolutely fails and everybody hates, and all of you watching write in and say he's rubbish, he's really annoying, get him off the telly, that's it, I'm gone. That's my little telly career over. So it's a very it's not a job with any sort of sensible long-term career prospects. Not really one I would suggest to anyone, but I've been very fortunate and I've still got a little bit of a gig going on at the moment.
Yeah, a great answer. And that nicely leads on to our next question from Smith Hill School, who wants to know, when did you realise that TV was the thing for you?
Oh, goodness. Well, it's not something I ever planned. It's Yeah, I don't know if you would agree, Amos, but I think a lot of youngsters nowadays, they're sold an idea that you can have overnight success. You can think it, dream it, and it can happen the next day for you. And honestly, I think that's very rare. Generally, thinking it and dreaming it is great, and we definitely want youngsters to raise their gaze and realize almost anyone can be almost anything. That is true and absolutely vital. People remember that. But at the same time, it ain't always going to come super easy. It's not going to come like that. It can take a slog. And even sort of, you know, the music stars or footballers who just seem to appear from nowhere, you know, they have been working away at that for years and years, doggedly pursuing that dream and that love that they have. You know, no footballer makes it just like that. They practice after school every day. Raheem Sterling's out kicking a ball. You know, it takes that sort of persistence. So I never wanted to be a TV presenter. It was nothing. It wasn't what I ever dreamed of. It wasn't what I ever imagined I could do. I had no ambitions when I was a youngster. When I was the age of you guys watching, I was really lost. I was really hopeless. I was really helpless. I never had the chance to even do this, to watch Amos. No, that sort of opportunity didn't come my way. So you're already doing better than I did. And I had my ambition, my goodness, it was at one point, my big ambition was to be a delivery van driver. I really wanted to do that. I think I would have been really good at it, quite frankly. I had a couple of other things I was keen on, but they were very basic jobs. You know, they were not writing books or going on the telly. It was completely out of my world. So I only sort of started thinking about being a telly presenter as a proper job after I'd done it a few times, actually. And I thought, hang on, I've made 2 series for the BBC, and I've done something for this other TV channel, and maybe I could do a few more. And so it snowballed more than me thinking, right, I want to be a television presenter. Didn't happen like that. It just sort of slowly dawned on me that this was becoming almost a proper gig or a proper job. And I think that was I probably remember the moment when I realized it. I was on a boat, this really small little wooden cargo boat off the coast of Indonesia, traveling along early in the morning. I was playing dominoes on the deck with the crew, and I realized that the TV team who were with me were filming me, and I felt like, oh my goodness, I'm like a proper TV presenter now. I'm presenting, they're filming me while I'm playing dominoes on this boat. And that was the sort of moment I thought I might actually be a telly presenter now. But it was never something I aspired to or aimed for, because it was just completely beyond my dreams and my imagination.
Yeah, and I like that it happened organically, and it happened in a way that you were doing something that you enjoy doing. It's something that you're passionate about, you know, the adventures and doing the things that you do today, which started from an early age, really. We'll talk about that very soon. But again, you know, I like the point you made in terms of the slog, the steady grind, just being persistent and just keep going every day. And it's those small incremental changes that you're making daily. It's only when you look back and you realize, whoa, hang on a minute, we've come a long way here. Things have changed a lot. But it's that consistency, which is really important. And I think that's a great message for our audience. You know, at an early age, you see things happen overnight for other people, but that's not the case for the vast majority of us. You know, it's got to be that slow, steady grind. And I like the way you put that there for us today. So Harris Academy Crystal Palace want to know, how do you deal with setbacks? How does Simon Reeve deal with a setback? How do you keep your head up and keep going?
I probably don't deal with them very well. You know, I'm a grumpy middle-aged bloke. I think I've always really been a grumpy middle-aged bloke, even when I was young. I think, how do I deal with them? I think I accept that there is going to be failure in life, and I'm going to put failure in sort of inverted commas, when I say that, because I don't really believe there is, there isn't. I mean, of course, you can fail at some things. You can fail in an exam, and in terms of what pass you get, there's a yes or a no sort of situation. It can be quite binary in some cases, I suppose. But so often, when you fail at something, it opens a different door. You just have to be able to recognise that for what it is. And we're very lucky now to be alive at this moment, quite frankly, because we have got opportunities in life that our ancestors could never have even comprehended what we can do, even during this awful time of COVID. But as we're coming out of it now, the opportunities that are available to us are incredible. And I think it's part of the way I deal with failure is see that I've got other balls to juggle. Basically, I've got other opportunities still out there that I've been working on at the same time. I tend not to pin all my hopes and put all my work and efforts into one project or one idea at a time. Generally, I'm working on maybe 5 or 10 different projects that I've just got. I've got them rolling along. So if one fails, I can switch my attention and energies to another. But I think I also deal with things. I use this mantra. It makes it sound quite spiritual. It's not really. When I was signing on for the Dole, when I was 17 years old, and I was really bouncing along the bottom in life, I was really, really struggling, and I had a really tough time. After I flunked out of school, I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no ambition, no job, no girlfriend, no hopes. I was just lost and helpless and hopeless. And I fell down to a really low point. I had a really bad head health. I was really struggling with just the idea of existence, quite frankly. And my brother said to me, "You've got to go and sign on the Dole." And eventually I sort of worked up the courage even just to do that. I went and signed on the Dole, and I was signing on, filling in the forms, and I was talking to the lady behind the desk, and I was saying to her, what, I don't know what to do in my life. Kids now, we're told, have a 5-year plan, have a 10-year plan. And I was saying to her, I can't get out of bed in the morning. I'm really, really struggling. And she said, she wasn't trying to be like a wise grandma or auntie or anything. She just said really nicely, don't think too far ahead. Just try and take everything step by step. And at that really low point in my life, it was such critical advice, and I really clung to it. From that moment to this, it's been so powerfully helpful for me. So if I fail at something, if I have a setback, as you asked, thank you, Crystal Palace. If I have a setback, then I just try and pick myself up, and I try and take baby steps out of that situation. I don't take giant leaps and strides. I take things moment by moment, and I put one foot in front of the other. Sometimes very literally, I go for a walk. When I grew up in a inner city London, basically. I'd go for a walk just around the streets, and that would start to help clear my head and give me and open my eyes and my heart and my mind, and make me realize that there's a big world out there, and it's not terrifying, it's not scary, it doesn't hate me, it's got possibilities and opportunities for me. So I think that after I'd been given that advice at this really low point, that was something I clung to, and it really helped me to get to work my way out of lots of setbacks. Because my setbacks, the most painful ones for me, are not the ones I suffer now. They're the ones I suffered when I was 15, 16, 17. Oh my God, that was a really tough time for me. It's never been really, except when my dad died, it's never been as bad for me since then. And I really could have done with that, take things step by step advice, because the world and everything in it seems so too huge and too frightening and too overwhelming. Long answer, but big question.
Incredible answer. And I think it's a good time for us to start talking about your earlier days, your younger days. Those walks around London, inner city, urban London, I can imagine, did good for you, clearing your mind. But did you come into contact with the wrong crowd? And what was your youth like?
I think I was probably a bit of the wrong crowd myself. My youth was, I grew up in a loving family. I don't come from a horrific background or situation, but I grew up on the edge of inner city London, and my world was very small. I was hanging out on the streets from quite an early age. I was a naughty boy, I suppose. I was vandalizing things. I learned how to make petrol bombs by the time I was sort of 11 or 12. I was stealing from shops and anybody else. There was a little bit of driving cars when I shouldn't have been, and with friends who shouldn't have been. But I was never a really nasty, bad kid. I don't think I ever hurt anybody. But I certainly could have done, and I certainly could have taken a wrong path in life. And I'm really profoundly aware of how close I was to being lost to a completely different life. And
it was bad, wasn't it? I mean, in terms of where you were, the crime, I mean, not say crimes, but the involvement, the things that you were involved with, they were serious, weren't they? How to get from right there in the devil's playground, if you want to call it that, to come to complete metamorphosis, complete change.
But that is possible for people, and I think it's really important we remember that. I've on my travels, I've met people who've been through the most appalling suffering that we can almost imagine, quite frankly, and of course that will always stay with them, but they are still a human being with love and humor and passion and desires and so much to offer and gain, and they've still got their core humanity. And at the same time, I've met people who've committed horrific crimes and have been rehabilitated. Quite frankly, they are a very different person to who they were. And I think it's useful for us to remember that change is very possible. And when you're 14, 15, 16, 17, you can't really imagine that you will become a completely different person, but you will. And you will, partly because you will be entering the adult world, the grown-up, big, wider world, where you are responsible for your actions and your behavior, and you have 1,000 more opportunities and excitements that are available to you, and that will transform you. And that's a powerful and positive thing. It doesn't necessarily happen immediately, but it can happen. It can happen in just a few years. It certainly did for me. I went from being a terrified, suicidal kid to being a confident young adult, just because I was given opportunities, responsibility, and I suppose a chance. Really, I got a job. That was what transformed me, really. I got a job, and they gave me a chance, and that was my sort of foot in the door, and I took it.
Yeah, and again, looking, at your childhood, you didn't come from an affluent family. I think Dorset was the place, destination for holidays, if you were lucky. And then, of course, the chance encounter with Andrew Neil, and then the opportunities that came from there. And also, the work experience side of things, which I'd like to talk to you about. But let's go back to, that upbringing. Please, you didn't go abroad for holidays. What was that like? And where did, that bug where you wanted to, that interest in learning about other cultures come from?
I'm not sure, to be honest, just between us, that I ever really had it, I was never obsessed with the idea of traveling. I was very interested in what was going on in the world, but really from the perspective of reading the news, listening to the radio, that sort of thing, but not like nerdily obsessively. I was just kind of interested. And I grew up in a very, very multicultural part of London. So through my friends, my community, I was connected through them to many places around the world. But I never imagined I would go there. I never got on a plane until I was an adult and I started working. And as you say, my holidays when I was a kid were just down to the South Coast, which was lovely. They were lovely family holidays, but we weren't rich, as you say. We just went, we hired a tiny little cottage year after year, just for 5 days or a week if we were lucky, and that was it. And it was great, but my world was very small. Obviously the world now is huge for a lot of people, and I'm always quite surprised now if I go and talk in the school or I'm talking with youngsters, you ask them to put up their hands, who's been outside the country. It's almost, in some schools it's almost everybody in some form. That's an astonishing thing. It really is. But yeah, I had a tricky start. My world was very small. My vision was really down. I didn't see the wider world, which I think was is something I would love youngsters nowadays to have more of a bigger, wider vision. I was focused on my streets, my little world, getting to school, surviving school, because school was scary. For me, it's I think a lot of adults now, they forget how frightening it can be for a youngster going to an inner city sort of school, or an urban, any sort of school. It can be frightening, can't it? I was carrying a knife. I was selling knives even to some of the kids. I mean, I was a naughty boy, but I came through it. I made some serious mistakes. I was caught doing a couple of stupid things. I realized I wasn't a really bad kid. I didn't want that. My confidence took a massive hit. I had a lot of mental health counseling. And as I say, I flunked out of school during the exams. I started with nothing. So almost everyone watching this will be off to a better start than I had.
Yeah, it is difficult when you're in that situation. You don't know what the future holds. You don't know, what tomorrow brings. And I think just, you're worried for today. School's scary. You're not even thinking about, your work. There's so many psychological, mental health issues that young people have got to deal with. Now, work experience, how did that help you, and how did that open opportunities for you?
I think work experience is one of the absolutely critical milestones in a youngster's life as they move from a world of uniforms and schools to a world of freedom and work and employment and personal responsibility, if you like. I think it is absolutely massive. I didn't get, to the best of my knowledge, I never got to chat with somebody like you when I was at school. I don't remember having any careers advice. I think it was a little bit lacking back in the 1700s when I was at school. I did go on work experience though. I went and worked in a brewery, and I remember it really vividly now, really clearly. It was a really important moment in life for me, but I didn't seize it as an opportunity. I saw it as something more. I had to survive. And when I started there, I remember being really nervous and struggling to get up in the morning and get that. That's all part of the lesson of work experience, isn't it? But there's a very quick lesson you learn, I think, when you're doing work experience, which is that actually everybody's lovely. Everybody is pleased to see you there. And they're generally older people. They really love talking about what they do and telling you why they do it. And they like sharing that little story. And they like seeing new people around a workplace or a working environment. And it's a brilliant way of getting a sense of what life is like out there. Can I say another really massively important thing for me? And it was, in some ways, it was one of the biggest shocks of my life. And I have stupidly walked through minefields and nearly died of malaria. Okay, so a shock for me is it's quite a big thing. But one of the big ones was actually leaving school and realizing that things weren't going to necessarily be done for me. I wasn't necessarily going to be told what to do anymore. I had to find my own way. And I found that very hard. I floundered and sank very quickly. So I think it's just important that students, youngsters now, they realize it's a great, you leave school, you come out of, you go for work experience. It's a great opportunity for you to take that responsibility and do what you've wanted really, which is to be treated as the adult, the young adult that you are. But you need to step up as well, and you need to say yes, you need to turn up, you need to get engaged as much as you can, and you need to recognize it for the opportunity that it is. I didn't adequately do that, and I don't want you to make the mistake I did.
Yeah, good point again you've made there. And I think it's important when you reflect back on it, you know, when you're in school, each year you're progressing and moving into the next year. So, you know, you start to think that that becomes a natural way of life. You know, when you finish school and then you go into college and you progress and move on to the next stage, until you get hit with a bit of stagnation and you wonder what is going on here. You know, that's when life has slapped you across the face. It's either you wake up and you do something about it, or you know you stay there. And I like that, you know, answering the question earlier on, you know, how do you deal with setbacks? And these are the sort of things that, you know, you've got to deal with. And I think work experience is an insight into that sort of experience, into that sort of world, the real world, when you get out there and there's no support. It's just you and the world, and you've just got to pick up yourself, dust yourself off, as you said, and just keep going.
Yeah, and again, I would suggest, forgive me, you know, I haven't got any right to give advice, but I suppose I've got no less right than anybody else. Yeah, don't see things as a mountain to climb. See them as the individual elements that they are. So, you know, I think for me now, if I was doing work experience again, I wouldn't think of the whole work experience as something scary, a scary mountain to climb. I'd see it as taking little things bit by bit or step by step, to use my little mantra. You know, first of all, you just have to get up. Then you just got to get yourself ready, look presentable, and get there. And then take every little experience moment by moment. Don't look at it as the huge peak of the mountain up there. Just see it as the little bit in front of you that you've got to get. That bush over there, that workplace, that office, that engineering firm, whatever it is, you've just got to turn up there and not just be yourself, but be your best self, I would say as well. You know, don't I know there's a big thing where, and it's completely right, that we're all individual, we're all magnificent, and everyone should accept us on our own terms. But I think for me personally, I didn't used to talk like this. I had a much stronger London sort of accent, and I've had to fit in a little bit over the years and change myself a little bit to try and almost like a bit of a blank canvas almost. That's not for everybody. I'm not saying everybody should do it, but I think it can help. You want to try and fit in. You want to get along with people who work in a warehouse or people who work in a lawyer's office. That being able to move from either one and fit in with both is quite important in life, I think. Yeah,
great point again there. I've got a question here from Ending Schools in Stoke, and they want to know, you know, when you're making your documentaries, you know, what kind of planning goes into putting it together?
Oh goodness, months of planning goes into it. Not all by me, I must be honest. We've got a small team. First of all, we've got to come up with the idea. So most of the TV series I've made have been my ideas. They're quite simple, really, to be honest. They're not rocket science, I've got to confess. I look at a big map of the world and I think, where would be interesting? What would be an interesting journey to do? I try and have my dream and do what I want, but I also try and provide and offer up something that I know the BBC, for example, will want. You know, you've got to have that fit. That's quite important. So I come up with an idea. Often it's just a title, really. One of my favorites that I came up with, which was some of the footage in the video you saw at the start, which was the series was called The Indian Ocean. And it was just really a title, The Indian Ocean. And it sounded quite, you know, exotic and different and lovely beaches, but real stories and history and issues as well. And that started with just that, just a title. And I went in to see the big boss at the BBC, and I took in a map I'd printed off Wikipedia, which was a map of the Indian Ocean. And I just went, what do you think about this? The Indian Ocean. And that was it. And she went, oh, like that. And sometimes it can be as simple as that. And at other times I've spent 6 months working on a project and an idea, and it's never got off the ground. That's just life and luck, really. But how we work on them is we start working months before we're actually going to film. We start working on what we could do, the logistics, how we're going to move 4 people generally I have on my team, including me, how we're going to move them along or around the coast of the Indian Ocean, for example. Where are we going to go to? How long is it going to take us to get from A to C to F to Z? How much is it going to cost? Because that's important. And what stories we can tell along the way, because we really want to tell a mix of we want to have adventures, but we want to tell real stories as well, mixing the light and the shade. I call it a bit pretentiously, but I think it makes it more interesting that way. We shouldn't hide ourselves off from the problems of the world. I think learning about them helps us to expand our minds, but it also helps us to love the world a bit more.
Yeah, I like that about you. You know, you're that person when who goes on holiday, whilst the rest of us are sunning it up on the beach and enjoying, the safe side of the holidays. You're the one who would go into the inner urban sides of things and find out what's going on in some of those streets and. And
I'd be the annoying friend who would take you with them. I'd be saying, "Come on, we've got to go to that bar in town. We've got to try that. We've got to go. We've got to go to the restaurant and eat the local food." And you're there with your sunglasses on under the sun lounger, drinking a drink in a primary colour. But come on, do both. Do both.
I've got another great question here from Christ the King College. And they want to know, what's the most dangerous country you've been to and why?
Goodness.
Look, I was just that video there. There's a few places, isn't there? The Mexican cartel.
Yeah, the Mexican cartel. Although Mexico generally is much safer than we think. It's a lot of Hollywood propaganda that makes it look terrifying. But yeah, there's no denying they've got a massive problem with drug cartels. I think the most conventionally dangerous is Somalia in the Horn of Africa. I've been there a few times, and there are some very safe parts of in the Horn of Africa. There's an unknown, unrecognized country called Somaliland that hardly anyone's ever heard of, doesn't have a seat at the United Nations or get to send a team to the World Cup. But there is also Somalia and Mogadishu, the capital, which has really been struggling with conflict and famine and war for decade after decade. And that was an incredibly dangerous place to go. One time I went there, I had to be protected by 10 heavily armed local mercenaries. I had a flak jacket, helmet. To be honest, I was even wearing this armored underwear called blast boxers, for goodness sake. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy situation that you can get into. And I remember to illustrate how lawless and anarchic it was there, I went to a local market and I was able to buy a Somali diplomatic passport in my own name with my own photograph in from a man called Mr. Big Beard. I mean, it was properly out there.
I can imagine Mogadishu, Al-Shabaab, and the chaos that would have come along with that. It is pretty dangerous. Yeah.
It is, but honestly, I was just going to add, because I need to check myself sometimes, because we all every telly person wants to say, their traveller's tales and, that time I was in the Congo. But actually, the world is a much safer place than people think. It really is. I've been amazed from the beginning of my sort of proper travels, just how warm and welcoming people are out there. As long as you wear a seatbelt, you can go almost anywhere and frankly do almost anything. Don't listen to telly people like me if they say the world is scary. It isn't. It's warm and cuddly and wonderful.
Would you say the KGB were warm, cuddly and wonderful?
Fair enough. That is that is not an example that supports my point. But in fairness to the KGB, who were the old Soviet-era secret police, they did catch us when we were creeping through bushes trying to film a secret Russian military base. We were sort of banged to rights. And when we were released eventually, after being held in the cells, they did try to take us for a drink in the middle of the night and gave us KGB cat badges as a souvenir. So, you know, not cuddly, but not terrifying.
And I mean, does that not, scare you sometimes if you're walking through a bush? I hope you had full armor on. I can just imagine snipers being around as well.
Well, I was being a bit cocky, to be honest. I was saying to the camera at that moment, they'll never see us. We're a mile away. But they did see us. it was worrying, but I suppose the experiences I've had, they've really helped me to work on what you might call my confidence muscle, as it were. And I do believe this. I really think that that confidence can be worked at like a muscle. Your courage, your bravery, if you like, but let's call it confidence, all right? And I think this is a really important aspect of work experience, all right? To bring it back to what we care about, I think work experience is a really big part of working at our confidence muscles and helping us to build them up. I haven't got much muscles, but I've had a lot of experiences doing weird and wonderful things, and that has helped me to become somebody who can calmly deal with being in a minefield, or even more terrifying, looking after 10 kids while they're trying to play football in the park. Whatever it is, experiences help us to deal with life. And I think what's really wonderful about work experience is it helps us. We start through work experience with a sort of 1 kilogram on our confidence muscle. It helps to build it up a bit, and then you can go to 2 kilograms. Maybe you get a part-time job or something. You start to realize what you can do. 3 kilograms, maybe comes from doing interning or shadowing somebody in a workplace for a little bit longer. But each of these experiences, they help to build us as individuals to go from that metamorphosis from youngster to adult, which is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time, but work at confidence like a muscle, I think, is really key. Think of it almost like an arachnophobe. You're not going to expect an arachnophobe to suddenly be stroking a tarantula, are you? They're going to start by first looking at a cartoon picture of a spider. Then they're going to look at a picture of a spider. Then they might look at a toy spider. Then they might be able to hold a toy. They work up to it. Confidence and being an adult, I think, you can work at that in a similar way. And work experience has a really critical part to play in helping us with our confidence muscle and preparing us for the big wide world of adulthood and all the opportunities and challenges that it has to offer.
Incredible. Wow. Simon, I think that sums it all up. That is exactly, what we believe here at the Change in Education Group. How can our audience connect with you? Do you do social media? What's the next project you've got? What's the next program you've got coming?
I'm a bit hopeless on social media, to be honest. I think it's a real distraction, youngsters. All right, listen to the crotchety old man saying, try and stay off it. But obviously, it's a tool that you can use. I am on social media. I've got the Insta, etc. But I'm a bit rubbish at it. But I've got TV programs coming out eventually, I suppose. I'm filming one in the Lake District at the moment, but don't tell anybody, okay? I'm going back there soon. I don't think I'm supposed to tell anyone that we're filming. But that'll be on hopefully later in the year. And I've got a book coming out at some point. That's what I've been doing in lockdown. Like every other D-list telly person, I've been writing a book, which should come out later this year as well. Thank you for asking. It's so lovely to chat about this, and I really believe in it. It's so important that everyone understands the value of helping youngsters to move from one part of their life to the other. And we're really bad at that in this country. We're really bad at giving children and youngsters responsibilities and proper workplace opportunities, I think, and work experience is so critical and brilliant, and you're fantastic at what you do. So thank you very much for the chat. I've really loved it, and I've really enjoyed our chitter chat.
Simon Reeve, it's been an absolute joy just to sit down, hear your experience, go on this adventure with you, because it's been an absolute adventure just to hear your story and your experiences. And again, thank you for being the great advocate that you are for work experience and supporting young people, investing in the future generation. And that's what we believe in, inspire future leaders. And you've done just that today. So thank you very much. Thank you also to our audience. Great to have all of you here today. Thank you for taking part in this week of virtual work experience. Please, if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon so that you're notified whenever we upload a video. And don't forget to like this video too. So from Simon, from myself, Amos Madra, and all the team here at the Changing Education Group, thank you very much indeed. Take care. Bye-bye.